Okay. Yeah. It's about 03. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our end of the year meetup. So we're booked for an hour today, but we might go a little bit over. So there's one thing that I wanted to bring up before, just in case you need to bounce a little early. So in the coming month, January 10th through the 13th, we're hosting a free virtual summit, and it's going to be led by the Thriving Man coaches. You may be familiar with Jen McMaster and Matt McCarthy. They are some amazing transformational coaches, and they're going to be hosting this 3-day summit. So I'm going to, in the chat box here, put a link to register. It's free, and we are taking donations, but not necessary at all. So put that in here. And Jeff, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Alrighty. It is good to see you guys. I was going to say it's good to see some of you and not others, but that's just not true. It's great to see you guys. Paul, you're looking good, buddy. Those who don't know, Paul decided to go and have himself a heart attack this year, and he said, nope, not today. We're glad you're here, buddy. So we figured we'd do an end of year meetup, SFE style. That means some work, some tears, some celebration, a little bit of everything, you know, some razzle dazzle. What we're going to cover in the next little while is a tiny bit on goal setting with some methods that some of you may have used. Although I've pretty much just made this up on the spot, so I doubt it's been used in this way. And then we're going to end by celebrating some wins as a, not necessarily as a group, but just individual wins. We want to keep the energy rolling into 2023 really well. What I'm going to get everyone to do is, if you don't mind, quickly throwing up the little hand, just, kind of saying that you agree to keep this in integrity. Some people might say some stuff that, they might be open and vulnerable, and we keep it within the group. And then if you're on the Mighty Networks watching this as a recording, just by continuing to watch, you agree to the same thing, just so that we can have a good vessel free of projections of judgment and all that jazz. Okay, quickly, I'm going to get everybody to throw up a 2023 goal in the chat box. Everybody do that. Go ahead. You got kind of like 2 minutes. Don't really think about it too much. Just go ahead and throw in a goal. If you have a really big one, put it in there. Jess, can I put one in?
Yeah.
Put one in? So I can change this. Cool. For the rest of you, go ahead and you can put your hands down, little yellow hands down, and continue to throw them in there. Like this, there's goals from all kinds of different perspectives, and it's going to work really well with where we're headed, I think. Max Jones up there. So this should work kind of good. I would say kind of, in that setting an intention is one thing, and then breaking it down into smaller goals, bite-sized manageable A to B's is, well, it's a really great way to proceed when it comes to goals. So, as I said, today's session is going to touch on some stuff that we've seen before. We're going to mix it in, and we're going to help us tune more into our natural tools. That means tools such as our own body, not just our left brain thinking, not just right brain thinking, not just our emotions, not just our impulses, not just our solar and sacral plexus, but all of it working together in order to continue to feel into this like alignment through goals, as Jen would say. What we're going to do, we're going to start off with a little bit of breathing in order to calibrate our nervous systems a little bit. There's no pressure here in terms of like rights and wrongs. Just feel into it, go with it. Jess is going to lead us through it, and then I'll jump back in.
Okay, so the reason why we're doing this calibration, and it has a little bit of breath work involved, is just to really quickly get to understand what a binary yes or no can feel like in our bodies. So one of the bigger problems we might have as we're trying to make decisions in life, like figuring out a goal that we want to commit to, for example, in this context, I think that works really well, is to understand what is just in our heads, like what is something that is bugging us, but might not be the most fulfilling thing overall. And how do we know the difference? So being able to tune into the feeling sense, like our gut feeling, really requires training. We're all born with this ability to really be more intuitive, but it's not something that's totally nurtured in our lives. So, you know, policemen have this, nurses have this, entrepreneurs have this. We've all experienced this ability to just know when something is right, and it feels different than knowing in your head when something is right. So the way that you can train this, and this little exercise we're going to do right now, is a body calibration. So if you can all close your eyes and settle into your seats, and just start with a really easy breathing pattern. It's just deep breaths in and out through the nose if you can. Just going as slow enough as possible without it starting to feel like an effort. And just deep enough before it starts to feel like an effort. And there's nothing fancy about this. It's just shaking off any excess something from the day. And I want you to change that breathing pattern to in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, so I want you to keep that breath pattern of in through the nose, out through the mouth going. And I want you to imagine, actually first focus all of your effort, focus all of your awareness right into this area right above your belly button. This is usually where we get that gut feeling. And there have been some really interesting MIT studies that show that if we can focus our effort and put our consciousness in this area, we like turn on this antenna to our gut feeling. It heightens our awareness around it. So continuing in through the nose and out through the mouth, holding our awareness right above the belly button. And now I want you to imagine you're petting or you're holding in your arms a really fluffy, cute puppy. It's adorable. It's like the best thing ever. If you focus on that area right above your belly button, feel that feeling sense of contentment and happiness and joy, that childlike feeling, and just make note of what that feels like in your body. Great. Now continuing that breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, we're going to shift it a little bit to see how our body calibrates to something that's not so amazing. So I want you now to focus again right back into that area right above your belly button. And imagine that you're about to tackle a big stack of overdue bills that you're not financially prepared for. Like, you know that in these envelopes is something that you do not want to deal with and you're not ready to deal with. And just feel in your body how that sense of constriction and unpreparedness, and general unpleasance feels like in your body. Great, let's take that one step further, continuing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Still focusing right in that solar plexus area. Imagine that in just a minute, you're going to share your deepest, darkest secret on this Zoom call. And just feel how that lights up different areas of your body. Great. Now let's flip the script a little bit more breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. I want you now to transport yourself into the happiest, most awe-inspiring moment of your life. It might take you a second to get there. Just allow your body to recalibrate to this really high vibing place. And allow that light, that vibrancy, that adventure, that oneness, whatever you're feeling in that moment, to really expand throughout your chest and fill out your whole body. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now I invite you to just come back, right back into your body, right into this present moment. Go ahead and open your eyes whenever you're ready. And Jeff, I'm gonna pass it back over to you now, but what we just did there, basic body calibration, just showing us the range of our emotions that we're able to tap into. Some of you might be quicker to do it than others, how we can switch from one state of being to another, and how we can hold a decision, hold an experience in our minds and our bodies, and get a sense of how we're tuning into it, how we feel about it. Is this a yes or is it a no? Is it a not yet? So Jeff, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I'll just add a little to that. The body holds great wisdom, right? Most of you know this. You just look at the fact that we're human beings, this collection of particles having a conversation. It always blows my mind. Like, we're going to use these feelings in order to start calibrating the wellness wheel, which I'll touch on in a bit. I just want to mention during the process, we use applied kinesiology, which taps into very similar functions to calibrate candidates. And it's absolutely amazing. All the performance metrics, all the metrics we can gather just from these single calibrations. And this here is in essence, you beginning to tap into that with yourself. So Jess, if you can go to the next one. And for the first one, thank you. For the first one, we went into a calm space, and then we tried to induce more of a fear state, and then we went back to a joyful, blissful state. And we're going to use this here is Dr. David Hawking's scale of consciousness. Now, whether you're into consciousness or scales or whatnot, I think most people would look at this and be like, you know what, I'd rather feel joy than shame. I'd rather feel some neutrality or some acceptance over some apathy. We're not here to mark these as good and bad, because shame, guilt, apathy are all very powerful emotions that serve us very well when they're not being over nurtured. If we look at the scale, he calibrated it down at the bottom in shame, and in that area is 0. And below that is literal death of the body. And you return to whatever, undifferentiated consciousness. At the top is enlightenment. And what happens there as you move more towards the top, your ego begins to disintegrate. And once again, you return more to undifferentiated consciousness. Both of them have long-term consequences to the human body. A lot of people think that tasting those higher vibrational elements is it's just bliss and that's it, and it's good times. And it's not. It's taxing on your nervous system. That's why we ebb and flow between these in natural cycles. Sometimes they're brought on by the environment. Sometimes they're brought on by how we treat our body. Sometimes, there's a huge realm of mystery as to why our emotions are the way they are. What we're going to do here is I just take a moment to see, when Jess asked you to calibrate puppies versus the bills, were you able to feel a big range of emotion there? So it's not wrong that you haven't, but it's probably a good sign that you've been a bit constricted and stuck in a state when you can't nurture those emotional ranges. It happens to everybody. It happens to me. I use my own methods to help loosen that stuff up. It's kind of like a calcification on your nervous system. It's a literal constriction in your brain. You start to shut down outer faculties like your prefrontal cortex, and you actually remove tools to be creative, to set goals. And we do that, like, I know just because we all know, where, we burn ourselves out a lot. We don't live, a lot of people think balance is where the scale is like this. No, that's where boredom is, but we don't ebb and flow between it and all the different facets. And we're getting way better at it. But this is why we're doing this, because we can always learn from each other and get a little better. So the scale of consciousness, think of, just for now, somewhere at the bottom as a 0 score and somewhere at the top as a 10. Like I said, it's not 10 is better than 0. We're just going to use that for the next section. 0 at the bottom, 10 at the top. Take a look at those words, see the literal experience of them as opposed to how he calibrated these emotions, which are both neurologically built on top of each other. If we look at the bottom, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame, those are what we call non-coping emotions. If they spike up really fast, that's okay, right? We should be scared of the bus. We should jump out of the way of the bus. But sometimes we abuse those emotions, and our environment around us pushes us down that. We'll call that non-coping if you're there too long. That's literally what PTSD becomes, whatever you get that from, whether it's a heart attack, you're an entrepreneur, a salesman, if you're an SF operator, a policeman. As we move up, we're still in what's called an insecure state, desire, anger, and pride. And that means that we're taxing our nervous system in those negative ways. There's this theory that you courageously move into the next levels. What that means is you begin to live from your heart. You live your true self, your individuality. You move into neutrality, willingness. What's literally happening in your brain as you transition through this is you're allowing more mental processes to go higher up in your brain in a balanced way, left and right side balance, emotionally balanced. And that gives you more tools to deal with all the feedback loops you're getting, all the stuff that life throws at us. But once you do this, you're able to manage it a lot better. And then all the way up into what we call thriving, love, peace, joy. Those aren't illusions. Those are the greatest quests on earth. You may not always want to be in joy. You may want to go put yourself into those lower emotions, but we all quest for them naturally. That's part of the growth experience. That's growing our consciousness. Next slide, Jess. So using that, tuning into yourself, asking that kind of natural question, does it invoke fear or does it invoke a more love balance, if you will? Again, I understand that people's ranges aren't going to go like perfectly 10 down to 1. I'd like to start applying that to, this is just a very simple wellness wheel, nothing fancy about it. It's got some Maslowian stuff in there, a little bit more existential stuff like spirituality and all that. It's all about your own well-being, right? It's about feeling connected to yourself, others, and the world around you in a really healthy way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that kind of Hawking scales, and we'll start at career. Satisfaction would work. Now, instead of just being like 0 is not satisfied in work and 10 is satisfied in work, what we really got to look at is work pulling me down into a fear state, or is it elevating me into a joy state? Now, that doesn't mean that it's quote unquote right or wrong. It just might mean it's taxing your nervous system a lot. So if we start at career, give yourself a second to tune into what that means to you. We all have different careers. Some of us have jobs. Some of us might be unemployed or homeless. I don't know. And just give it a score, a natural, you know what, that feels like a 4. That feels like a 5. Now, remember, if it's a 10, it's having you float out of your boots and, wanting to kiss and shake puppies, that kind of stuff. If it's 1, you're feeling more constricted. You're unable to handle more load because of it. Does that make sense, Jess?
Yeah. And this is, as you guys are working on career and feeling into that, it ebbs and flows every day, obviously, and there are different elements of your career that you might feel 1, 5, 10 around, but just in general, if you were to just feel into the vibe of what legacy I'm leaving in terms of the work that I do, that would be this one.
Yeah. Just give it a number and then go ahead and move on to finances. we understand that we put more work into career and finance generally because we associate money, of course, with survival. Money is going to influence all these other ones. The issue is it very seldom leads to a complete feeling of oneness. It does indirectly. So finances, yeah, go ahead and do that. 0 to 10, where does that naturally fill for you? Because you might have a really good career, might be really loving what you're doing, but it's not bringing in the bread. Now we'll move on to recreation, hobbies, fun, downtime. When we look at this one, really think of what downtunes your nervous system, what really helps you feel at peace or in flow. It could be surfing, it could be snowboarding, it could be a lot of things that help bring you to a very present state of mind. And now remember, you're weighing that against career, because most people aren't always in flow or vibing high when they're working, but we put a lot of time into it. Where recreation, if you put that against time, it's like, well, almost 99% of the time I'm not low vibing in recreation. Because obviously, if you're doing your hobbies and fun time, it should be a 10. It's just how much time are you actually giving to those things? Tune in and put a number there. Social well-being. Lots of people actually can't even really honestly answer this. They'll be like, well, ethically, I'm polite to people and this and all that. But how often do you actually feel connected to other people? And in order to do this, you have to be connected to yourself. So take a moment. How often am I connected to other people? We'll go into mental well-being, healthy mindset and emotion. As you can see, these are all starting to add on to each other. It's just how often do you have really good self-talk? How often are you excited to logically pull something apart, a task? Because sometimes it's really fun to tax our mind on things we like doing, right? All right, physical well-being, just think of that as physiological, really Maslowian. Really, this could be a whole month-long talk on its own or more. It's really a lifetime of exploration. But are you eating well, exercising, and sleeping? Or is that being pulled into other directions? Is your mind really busy at night and you're losing out on this area of your wheel? Home and environment. Now, really everything outside of your body falls into environment, ish, like as if there's a demarcation. But it's constantly putting pressures on you, and our attention's filtering this. And the pressure is always there. It's not pressure like bad pressure. It's just, there's always these feedback loops running. So does your home in this case make you help induce a state of feeling safe, secure? Not like a little kid feels safe, but your body's like, hey man, I feel really relaxed in this environment. My relationship with my wife's going really good. It's really helping me feel this way. And if it's not, go ahead and give it a lower score. If it is, now be careful with this one. Distractions, addictions, escapism are not wrong, but they definitely shouldn't make up the 10 in this case. You have to just give that a thought for a second, because it might give you a diverted sense of attention, but it may not be actually helping you feel safe and secure, where you believe in yourself. And then spirituality, personal growth and understanding. For me, spirituality is about feeling oneness. I already alluded to it. Oneness with myself, oneness with the person next to me and the people around me, and then a bigger sense of oneness. And what that means to me on a more scientific level, I guess, is I'm very much in a comfortable attunement with what's happening around me. I don't necessarily attach to it. That's how you remove desire and things like pride, if you're wondering about the Hawkins scale there, because those ones can seem a little like tricky to remove. Alrighty, I hope everyone's got some scores there. I see some of you.
Just checking the chat here to make sure.
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Okay, great. Thanks, Jen. Awesome.
Yeah, so I hope you guys have your own goals there. Now looking at the wheel, and looking at the goal that you mentioned earlier on, do those work in alignment? So you set a goal quickly. I know I kind of sprung it on you. Does that goal nurture where you're low in this wheel or not? It's important to ask that question because this wheel is surrounded by our values, and that's how we ask that question. I value this. I'm going to achieve it with this. And as long as we're not sacrificing too much in the wheel, because obviously it ebbs and flows. It's probably hard to have perfect concentric rings because life is so beautifully in flux. Now, if you want to change that goal, please go ahead and change it at this point to something that might suit this better, because you might be like, well, my career is really feeling like it's burning me out, but really it's a sleep thing. Or my finances are a little low, but really it's a mindset thing because I have hundreds of thousands in the bank account. Just take a moment to ponder that. And like I said, we're blazing through this because the idea is that you guys are going to step aside after, and I'm sure most of you already do something like this. The idea here is to start combining how your body actually feels about a goal, because we don't just want to persist through a goal. That's not going to ever serve us. We want to make sure that it's in alignment with us. And yeah, okay, the cart before the horse, sure. How do I know what serves me and what doesn't serve me unless I'm failing? But we can really tune into our own psyche big time here and start aligning these things. So go ahead, Jess, next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about, okay, well, how do we do this? We got the goal, bam, golden goal. A couple little techniques that we used in the SF model. Really, whether you're in the SF or a high-end monastery or whatnot, a lot of these things.
High-end monastery?
I don't know what that means, but like you're super monk. Anytime you climb that echelon of knowledge and embody wisdom, things start to look the same. Maybe it's just spoken through a different language. So rehearsal of concepts is exactly that. You rehearse the concepts to achieve your goal. We would literally walk this out. So we're about to go do something on a compound or something like that. You walk it out. The reason you walk it out is multifold. It's to find the loop, the holes that need filling. It's to eventually build up the contingencies you need, which we'll touch on in a bit. It's to know exactly what I have to do, what I can't do, what I should do, all of those things. So the first thing you're going to do, old school army style, is turn it into a mission statement. And instead of saying, I will do this goal, we're going to add some language tech to it. And we're going to say, I am doing this, whatever your goal is. In my case, I am writing this book, because you want to start to bring it closer to your present reality instead of keeping at a distance. Now, sometimes you have to, right? Like, I can't really start writing until 5 days down the road or whatnot, but I am doing this goal. And literally saying it out loud, guys, creates good feedback loops for your ears. So all the way through the rock drills and intention implementation, sorry. It's actually implementation intention, but I just think it's such a stupid way to say it because you're actually implementing your intentions. Anyways, I got off track there a little bit. Now, when we're building out our rehearsal concepts on our goal, on our mission statement, we ask ourselves constraints and restrictions. And just like it says up on the little PowerPoint, what are the things I have to do in order to make it happen? And then what are the things I have absolutely no control over? And really, restraints is a mile long. Like Rick says, the universe is going to give you a million ways for you to not achieve your goal, and only one way to actually achieve that specific goal. The route there can vary, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to not control, but lay out the path that we want to walk as much as possible. Once we have those, we can, and remember, I'll touch on it in a second. We want to build up the contingency. So implementation or intention implementation is, I want to ask for a raise in order to achieve this raise. And I used this example before, it's just super easy, but really it's on everything you want. And remember, when you're achieving a goal, the number one person that you're actually going to be interacting with is yourself. So if I set goal X and I start to distract myself with whatever, or I start to soft talk, or if I start to negate or start to feel small, their if then statements contingencies. What will I do if this happens? So those can get pretty large, right? Especially if your goal, I saw some pretty existential goals out there. Obviously, you just don't get to listing all of this out, but maybe that starts to reduce that giant existential goal down to, okay, this is actually the goal I want to achieve. And then the next goal will get me closer to that existential reality. I'm not going to dive too much into this because, like I said, more of the purpose of this is for the next portion for me. I'm sure there's some questions on that, but I'm not going to answer them. Not to be a dick. It's just something to play around with. What I would ask you to do is this: go back. Yeah. So visualize. Someone asked. That's a good question about visualization. Visualization is awesome. It's a very powerful tool. But really, get up in your apartment or your house or wherever and walk through it. Literally walk through. Pretend you're shaking the boss's hand. You know. Use the words aloud. These things will really help rehearse, plan and prepare for whatever comes up. And then you're already set, you know? Like I said, I'm going to ask the boss for a raise at the water cooler. Bam, I go to the water cooler. He's whatever. Doesn't have a cup. I already have my fucking if then. I got a cup for you, boss. You know, like whatever it is you're doing. And remember, inwards, because no one's going to stop you from your goals like you are. We all know that.
I'd like to add to that. So when you're creating your if-then plan with these contingencies, I know that one common one that I've come across in this group before is being a bit of a people pleaser, or said another way, like you love to help people so much that people overstep your boundaries, or you let people overstep your own boundaries, and you end up doing a lot of things for other people that you wouldn't otherwise do. So the ability to say no, that's a really great one to practice, is somebody that you love and really care for asking you to do something and practicing saying no and doing it until you feel good about it, like proud of yourself for it, and like resolve in doing something like that. That personally was a big rehearsal of concept exercise for me that helped out quite a bit.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, in a really beautiful way, our mind has compiled our reality, right? And we're interacting with the future and the past to try to see what's happening in the present. And as you're trying to achieve your goal, reality wants to give you all kinds of lefts and rights and ups and downs, right? Things that we can't even imagine we're planning for. And that's why we do this. I remember for certain ops, you literally walk out every detail. Now, reality, when you hit the ground, what we call ground truth, is going to be different. But at least you've tried to implement as much as you can by walking through these goals. Now, a lot of people will just slough this off, you know, and some of you might be aces at achieving everything you got. You know, I know there are. I know in this group there's all kinds of awesome, exceptional people who are able to achieve their goals, but we can do this. I'm guilty of it, where I'm like, yeah, I got it. And that's just your ego. Yeah, I got it. You know, you don't got it. You don't fucking know what the future holds. Nobody knows what the future holds, right? So we try to get as much of it as we can. We try to approach it with some humility. I do ask for those in the Mighty Networks. I'd love to hear you in two ways. In a month, I'd like to hear from those of you who have started implementing your goals or goal. And then also, I'd love to hear about how you guys set goals or have set goals to achieve them, you know, the tools and techniques you have, so we can build up that portfolio for everybody, if you will. Now, like I said, tuning into your body, having some kind of metric of like, why am I doing this? You know, and I just based it on a fear-love model. Okay, I'm doing this to achieve joy. I'm doing this to achieve fear. Is it taxing me in a good way, or is it taxing me in a negative way? Chopping up life, you know, it can be very Maslowian looking. It can be any kind of real hierarchy if you want. And then laying it out, running through those concepts. This stuff works very well, by the way. You know, not many places get titles as no fail organizations. And that's why it seems really simple, but it really does work good. And that's what we do, right? Prepare. Recalibrate in your journal afterwards, or whatever technique you want. Don't be shy to share your goals with people. even if they come up against negativity, which can happen, but it's good to share them. Boom, boom. You know, I plan to write a book this year, and I say I, but really it's going to be Jess and I, A Sniper's Guide to Joy. I know, excellent title. I came up with it. Just kidding. But I don't fucking know how to write a book, right? So in order to not do that, I'm going to use these tools. I'm going to rehearse. I'm going to go through this. Okay, now, this is the part I really want to get everyone involved in. 2022 has been a pretty epic year. 2021, 2020 were unprecedented in human history. And I think 2022 has been in so many ways. And I love for us to start sharing some of the wins. I'll kick it off just to, you know, soften the crowd. Jess and I reached a point in our relationship where we needed to expand beyond the cocoon of our relationship. So we were realizing that we had patterns that we were in that weren't really serving us awesomely, that we wanted to break free of. And we made a decision, a very difficult decision, to separate. Not a separate and we're going to get back together, but we're going to just like see what the wind does here. Is it going to change us? Yeah, thanks, Mike. And it was a big leap of faith on my part, saying bye to my partner. Like, I love Jess more than anything, and saying, okay, you know, we're going to do this was very difficult. It was difficult because I had to face my own ego and say, hey, these are things that I'm doing that are not working. These are little micro patterns, and some of them are macro patterns that I'm doing that are not working for my own greater good. And then, as some of you know, I'm down in Austin now. We decided to start finding our way back together, and it was rocky because we weren't really ready to, but because I wasn't allowed to cross the border again, we were kind of thrust into this situation of, all right, yeah, we got to do this. And it was, well,
it sucked.
Yeah,
it sucked, man. We
because
were not ready to be back together, and it was 2 weeks of like, I feel bad for our neighbors. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it was very intense because we were starting to be aware of like certain things that the other one did that we didn't like, and then also in ourselves. And there's nothing harder than realizing in yourself that you're your own enemy. Like, oh fuck, there it is. You know, it was me all along. However, though, we got through it. We pushed through. You know, like Jim Carrey and the rhino's ass coming out of it in Ace Ventura. we did that, and it feels really good. And that was a massive win for us. Massive win. And then on a more manageable bite size, not so impactful, I joined BJJ. I hadn't been part of any kind of martial art for a long time. And at 41, I rejoined. I gotta say, I was a little sore, but it's been great. Anyhow, I would love to hear from you guys. I know some of you have been kicking ass this year. Please share with the group some wins from 2022 aloud, not just if you want to just share in the chat box, please do. But we'd love to hear some great energy.
I think I have this thing on where people can't unmute themselves. So let me just figure out how to do this.
Give us a second.
Okay, Jason is here, then I do that.
I don't know. Give us a sec, Jason. Can you unmute yourself?
I can now, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, buddy.
So for myself, back in end of July, I actually finally got engaged. And I'm going to say that as again, because I have been engaged in the past. So there was a lot of fear involved in actually doing that again with someone different and better. But no, there was definitely a lot of fear. And I also did it on the West Coast Trail. So there was also really nowhere to run and hide if she said no. So that was a great experience, great win for me, both of us. So yeah, that's my big win in 2022.
Oh, that's amazing. It's neat how that stuff gets locked up, isn't it, Jason? Where you had an experience and how just beautifully entangled it is in our minds. And then,
Mhm.
you press through that unknown. I love it, buddy. Thanks, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Phil?
Hey guys.
Phil?
So this last year, I've been through a lot of ups and downs. Previous few years, I put myself into a shitty situation financially, mentally, physically. This last year, I started to get myself back into going to the gym. I got my credit card straightened out. I got my brand new truck. But I got to a point, I like I said, the people pleaser thing. I was a huge people pleaser. Huge, like doing anything I could. So the guys I was living with, I was filling the tank in the truck, so on and so forth. And eventually I got stressed. I stressed myself out. I can't say I got stressed out. I stressed myself out and I fell back into old patterns, which is hard drugs. And I kind of slammed on the brakes after a couple months of going into it. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing again? I'm not going back down this road. So I did a full 180 and backed out of there. I left the place, or left where I was working at and everything. Like, I mean, this year's been a really good year. I cranked out a lot, but at the same time, I also recognized a lot of my own triggers, a lot of my own habits, a lot of my own everything. And I kind of stepped outside the box and looked at myself and said, what am I doing here? I'm not doing this again. We've already been down this road. I've fucked up enough. Let's not do this anymore. Done. And so I learned to recognize a lot of my own patterns, like I said before. And I was talking to a few people from the past and everything, and recognized what I was doing there and how I was doing things wrong. Even just having discussions with people, I was allowing myself to get overheated, allowing my emotional state to take over as opposed to logically thinking about it like I should have. There's been a lot of, like, I mean, this is just key points that I can think of right now, but there's been a lot of recognition of a lot of things. And at the end of the year, I'm pretty damn fucking proud of myself, all in all. So, I mean, coming from where I stood, and all these guys in this group continuing to push themselves forward, keep fucking doing it. Keep going. Do not stop. You don't win by stopping. If I'm going to be honest, if you allow yourself to move back into that old pattern, you don't win. You don't find that win. I mean, even if it's for 2 weeks, you just slowed your progress by 2 weeks. So yeah, like it's just been a really eye-opening year. I've had a lot, and it really kicked the living shit out of me, honestly. But that's what I needed. I needed that ass kicking to go, all right. And now, so like I said, back in the gym, back into my martial arts. I was huge into martial arts when I was younger. Saving money, financially stable, slowly getting there, moving closer to Calgary, gonna buy a piece of land, eventually build a house on it, start my business. A lot has happened. And honestly, if I must say, it really started when I met Karina. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but she started a chain reaction when we went for a hike. And it was just one small thing, like the old snowball, starts as a snowflake, and it goes down the hill, becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, it was just a positive snowball instead of allowing myself to spiral out of control. Like, I'm just beside myself looking back at where I've come from.
Awesome.
It's been amazing. Anyways, that's the end of it. I don't want to eat up everyone's time. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yeah, buddy. No, it's good to hear. Some holes are big ones, right? Jen, is you there? Hi. Can you do me a favor? So one of these things we have as dudes, just a generalization, of course, it's not all true for everybody, is an issue celebrating our wins. So because we tend to nurture certain aspects of our emotional bank, it can be very hard for us to really celebrate. And I don't mean like bottle of champagne, balloons, but really feel a win in our system. So if you could just like touch on a couple points, Jen, before we get into Johnny.
Yeah, what we tend to do when we're reflecting on our wins is we tend to marry them up, the win with the heartache, the struggle with the victory. And that's a good first step. It paints a picture, it gives us context. But something to work on when you're sharing your wins or your celebrations is really to get clear, concise. I overcame adversity. I got back on the wagon. I got back into the gym. Clear, short, concise, so that you're programming your brain to focus on those nuggets, and it starts to tear them away from that emotional charge of the struggle. Because yeah, there was the struggle and that adversity, and that's okay. But then you want to move to this part where you can feel it differently in your body. You want to have a new emotional reaction to the win, to what you accomplish getting through the process, or getting engaged, or having a child, or finalizing a divorce or custody. You want to move from the adversity to the win so that you actually program your brain to be in a positive state. So inner winner is a word that I like to use with my clients, so that you're changing your narrative in short, concise sound bites. And then once you have that, write them out, share them. Tell other people those short, concise bites of your win so that you get practice talking positively about yourself and highlighting the wins of the year or the decade. And then come up with ways that you want to celebrate. Sure, sometimes popping the cork and having some champagne is the way to do that. Sometimes having a quiet moment of reflection on that as you're sharing it with somebody or as you're journaling. You can light some candles. You could go for a walk. You can look up different rituals, see what aligns with you. There's lots of releasing and celebratory rituals that you can find out there, whether that's listening to a song, going for a drive, something that makes you feel good. So now you're tying this positive experience or a list of positive experiences to all the other things that emotionally charge you on that vibration scale higher.
Awesome. Yeah, the goal, guys, thanks for that, Jen. And is we tend to learn from fear, from adversity, from suffering, from struggle, but there is another teacher, and it's bliss and it's joy. But we can deny ourselves that. They're both excellent teachers. They both have different methods, but they are both teachers. And when we can practice expanding that band of where we're accessing it, it's a big deal. And then I just want to say, Karina, thank you. That was great to hear from Phil, and it's amazing where a spark can happen and what the catalyzing effect of that is. And it's just beautiful to hear. All right, Johnny.
Yeah, thanks. So my win this year has been by far the personal growth and development. I think I'm going through a separation. Probably a lot of people on the call don't know that. It's been very hard because I'm not seeing my kids. There's some custody issues. But I think I was searching for something, and then I came across the process on Instagram, and it was sort of like I reached out and I touched it, and then all of a sudden, like before I knew it, I was doing Thriving Man, I was doing the trials, and preparing for the process. And I did a lot of in the course of doing that, I did a lot of things I hadn't done, like the 3 fearful experiences. So I did skydiving for the first time, that was very, very scary. It prepared me well for getting on the bus at the process. So yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me that came out of that was I didn't realize how much I was living in fear prior to doing all of this work. Like I was very, very afraid of things that I just shouldn't have been afraid of. Yeah, all of it's been fantastic. Like my mindset is way better than it ever has been. And I think I'm really set up to start my business that I've been working on, an e-commerce business. So yeah.
Thank you muchly, John. It's so good to hear that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, of course. I think this goes for all of us. There's this, I'm gonna like muddle some stuff together, but as we experience reality and we tax ourselves, we start to lose trust in reality. We start to lose trust in ourselves. And one of this theme, and it's like, it's so cheesy and so simple, but when you do it, it's so powerful. And that's actually just believing in yourself, you know, believing I'm capable of something. It's not a false reality, like I'm going to achieve everything I could ever do. It's just like, I believe I can start moving through this. I believe I can do this. You know, it's just this belief. And it's so powerful, and so much wants to take our trust away from the world around us. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it was great chatting with you the other day. Maddie.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Sorry, I couldn't for a second there. Thank you, Jess, for releasing me. Hey, everyone. Amazing seeing all your lovely faces, and I mean that. You're all lovely in your own unique way. My win for 2022 is very relative to my goal for 2023, is to expand. I put expand collaboration. Within that, I mean expand connection and collaboration. My win for 2022 was really stepping into connection. Everything that I have achieved in my growth so far has been a result of connections, you know, whether it's the beautiful entity that is the Thriving Man now, a men's group in town that I've started. I've doing some collaborative stuff in the professional space with some other people. They all came from connection to friends, new people, and stepping into that through that fear that really held me back in really choosing anything that I wanted to choose for me. And the moment that I stepped through those fears and had that moment of discomfort in that initial sphere of connecting and meeting someone new, or being in a space that is uncomfortable or not the usual sort of thing that I would have historically stepped into, things started to happen. People started to be like, people started to wonder. I started to wonder, and all of a sudden things started to happen. Things just start moving, and there's this trajectory that I'm on that feels momentous forward. And I don't know exactly, the beauty of it is I don't exactly know where it's going, but I'm okay with that. And it's all been great. It's created joy and some harmony in these the list of, you know, spaces that we rated, raised some of them, made me more aware where I need to put more work into some of them. But it all started from connecting to community, connecting with other people, other entities. And I can't emphasize how important it has been for me, connection. And that's why this calls like this, you know, groups stepping into other communities and sharing and being vulnerable and creating that space of wonder, like, oh my God, that sounds amazing, or saying something and it captures someone ear. None of that happens without connecting to the energy of others. And so for me, the win was, in summation, increasing my connection and stepping through the fear of being afraid of what comes from that. So
Awesome. Well, we're at the top of the hour, and what I would do is invite anyone who hasn't had a chance to share, please do, yeah, if you don't mind, revisit your year. And I mean, we all fucking survived a year on planet Earth, you know, so there's got to be something in there you did right, and amazing, and it's definitely worth celebrating. And if you do that, you set the conditions for the next year, next time frame to be even better. Because 2023 is probably gearing up to be an energetically a doozy. As if we follow the post-traumatic growth cycle, which we got thrust into over COVID, it's usually a couple years after that it starts to percolate back up and start to show itself. And what that really is great about that is that's the soup for growth. You know, it's the primordial ooze to transform, to continue to expand yourself. Just a small piece of advice, because it's probably going to get a little intense in the next few weeks. If you don't know what it is, don't fight it. Try to let it pass through you. We try to always like label everything and every emotion, every sensation. So yeah, let that go through you. To continue the momentum, Thriving Man Virtual Summit, there's the info up there. We talked about thriving states on, earlier on, principles for that, and then fear work, a tactical session from fear state to power state. Fear state is those lower vibrational emotions. Power state is a love state, enlightenment, joy, and they really are powerful. If you think about these in opposition. So one is force, that's the fear-based projections, and the other is power. Most of the people I think in Time Life magazine's Men of the Year or People of the Year are people who use power. Gandhi, MLK, Nelson Mandela. You look at the other side, you have forceful people like Hitler, people who like press their own agenda through the world. We're looking to build more powerful states for ourselves. Literally powerful, just not in a caustic way. Just got the registration down there. I'd love to see you guys out there. There's some of the info.
Yeah, if I could just explain this really quickly. So Jen and Matt and their team, they're amazing transformational experts, like I had mentioned. There are a lot of people in this group that have actually worked with them. They are going to be holding 3 sessions each day. And so it's the same session, but it just like, if you can't make it at 12 o'clock, you can come to 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. We're just offering you different times to come, and they're all live sessions. And Jen, I'm gonna ask you to unmute here. And if you could talk about is it going to be more of I know there's a bit of a presentation portion, but it's gonna be a lot of workshopping too, right?
Yeah, we like our practical hands-on learning. So if you come out and you participate, we're going to have, a general context that we're going to be working in on each day. And then we're going to dive right into how does that matter to you and what do you do with that? So you get off the call and you can go and implement something right away.
Awesome.
Cool beans. Okay. Can you go back to the screen of all the sea of pretty faces?
Yes.
So last thing, doesn't matter your background, what you believe in, any of that. What I would ask everybody to do, I didn't know this until the call. Paul's going to be going in for, it looks like open heart surgery. Paul, is that a correct thing? Sorry, my sign language ain't that good. What'd you say?
No, it's like Mike. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I am probably gonna be going in for open heart surgery. I have to have a valve replaced, as well as my aortic stem. Apparently it's routine. Really, that's nice. You're fucking opening me up. I'm like, that's great. I don't know how fucking routine that is, but yeah. So sharing it. I had a heart attack at the beginning of the year, and then this is kind of the after effect of it still. To be really candid with everybody, I'm running on 1 valve. So yeah, I'm scheduled for open heart surgery. They haven't given me a day yet, but they're pretty well like, no, you need to have this. So yeah. So 2022 can eat a bag of fucking dicks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, one day you'll get to hear his gas station story.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
But just, I don't want to rush anything here, but what I would like everyone to do is just take 10 seconds, bow your head, and just send good juju to Paul for his upcoming.
Guys, thank you. Finest group of human beings right here. Finest group. Thank you.
I want to thank you all so much for coming. And if it wasn't for inadvertent hardship like what Paul is sharing with us, then I don't think we'd all be here. We all appreciate these moments in life, the dark elements. There's something about this group that we're attracted to the mysteries that a lot of other people aren't so willing to look at. And sometimes we don't even know what we're looking at, but I think when we see Paul and we see his struggle and we see his humor that he can bring into something that feels really shitty, honestly, Paul, like it's so inspiring to see. I'm sure you have your ups and your downs, but you always bring the vibes.
Yeah,
It's
thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
Well, it's how you affect, it's how your mindset is going in with it. So even my counselor said, and I'm not going to go into the gas station. Anybody who wants to know the gas station story, feel free to reach out to me. You'll get a laugh at the same time. But Jeff knows. But I'm going in. I came out of it fighting. I'm going in fighting, and I'm going to come out fighting. And I'm sorry, I'm a neurotic control freak, so I intend on winning. So,
Righty.
Great.
Well, yeah, it was a great year for those of you that we got to interact a lot with. 2023 is going to be awesome.
It's gonna be amazing. We're putting something epic together. It's called The Art of Adversity. I'm doing the thing where I share something before I'm supposed to. Oops. But for most of the people here that are already in the process, you're already gonna be looped into it. And we're really highlighting these hidden experts in the human transformation space that you haven't heard of because they spend, shocker, the majority of their time honing their craft, not marketing. So we're pulling them out of the woodworks, we're bringing them into this community, and you're gonna see a lot more content coming into this space that is really cutting edge and amazing. And yeah, I'm excited about it. So the first one is Thriving Man, and after that, we're just shooting off into space. We're going super, super hard this year.
Anyways, much love, everyone. Félicitations and Happy New Year.
Bye.